Alright, so in the last series, we were able to make our character basically quit or lose and win, right? So we added the ability to die after a certain number of lives and then to have a victory condition. What we're going to do this week is add a little bit more complexity to this and give us a way of adding lives as well as adding score, also displaying the score, and eventually change the graphics a little bit. Okay. Oh, and fix some like things where like making the camera move with us and things like that. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is let's make all of the components and then we'll code it. Okay. So let's set that up. So I want to make something that's going to be a life and something that's going to be scoring. Okay. So I'm just going to go up there and let's create a 2D object. We'll do a sprite. And then you might have various options, or yours might just be it may just be a 2D sprite or something. Apparently that I updated this one. I didn't realize that. So anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll do a circle. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and make it yellow. So we'll say like this is like a gold coin thing. And I'm going to change the scale of it by going over here and hitting R. And I'm just going to scale it down a little. And I'm going to move it over here. And I'm going to just rename it point. Oops. Point. Okay. And the other thing this is going to need in order for it to be able to contact us is it's going to need a collider. So I'm going to go ahead and do physics 2D and do a box collider. And then the size is fine. So that looks good. I'm just going to make sure it is triggered, which will allow us to just go through it. We're not actually going to attach a trigger to or a piece of code to this. It needs to have a collider in order for our, we're going to have something attached to our player. It needs to have a collider in order for us to detect it. So that's why that's there. And then the last thing I want to do with this is I'm going to add a tag to it. So I'm going to go up here and there's no tag here for point. So I'm just going to go ahead and add tag. And we're at the little plus here. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to name one called point, capital P. Great. And let's add another one too while we're at it. And we'll call this life. So that's how we'll add lives. Click back on the point, and then you got to click back on here and actually add it. All right, the actual tag. Okay. So now this point is all set up. That looks fantabulous. Let's go ahead and add our graphic for our life. Click on this, and we'll create 2D object sprite again. And this time I'm going to do an isometric diamond because why not, right? So we'll do isometric diamond. That's great. And I'm just going to go ahead and make this kind of like a pink. So that it looks like a life. And I'm going to hit W for the move tool. And I'll just put it over here so I can make contact with it. We'll go ahead and I'm just going to call this a life. Okay, so probably should call it life pickup or something. Whatever. We'll call it like that. That's good. Scale's fine, so I'm not really too worried about that. Let's go ahead and add a physics 2D, box collider 2D. Go ahead and make it is trigger. Just so that we don't accidentally go into it. And then we need to add a tag for life. Okay. So these are our two pickups, and basically, they could be any number of things, but we're just going to go ahead and make them these two crappy graphics. Eventually, they'll get replaced, but that should work for that. All right. So the next thing I want to do from a graphical standpoint is the UI. So I want to have something that's going to hold my lives and hold my score. Now we could do a lot of fancy things with this, but we're just going to kind of do a basic thing to start with here. Then later on, we can, do other stuff. Okay. So we just need to add that. So over here, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to UI, and then we're going to go text. And there it is right there. And we will call this, hang on a second, what do I want to call it? We're going to call this, up here, we will call it lives underscore text. So that'll hold my text. Okay. It's right down here. It's in the bottom left corner. That's where it puts it by default. So that looks fine. I want to put it up in the top left. Okay. So the way this works is that when you click on here, this canvas, what it does is it basically is meant that it'll change based on the resolution of the screen. So instead of having like, it's an overlay that lays over top of everything that you see. And instead of having like, let's say a picture that's 1920 by 1080, right? So a typical kind of like TV screen. What it does is that it's a like an elastic picture like a rubber sheet that's clear, that's laying over top of it. So you see how this is right here? If I go like this, you can see no matter what, right now it's stuck on this resolution. So let's do free aspect. And no matter what, it's always, well, now you can't see. Hang on a second. Let me, I want to zoom out. That's not really helping much. We'll just go back to what we were, 16:9. No matter what, it will stick to the bottom left of what you're seeing, okay? So it's like putting a pin on that piece of rubber, and so it's pinned to the bottom left corner, okay? What we can do is click on this, and this will allow us to both move it and also set the anchor point. So I want my lives to be in the top left, so I'm going to hold Alt and Shift, okay? So the Alt will set the position, but right now the pin is in the center. I want it on the top left. So if I click on this, it's going to snap it to the top left up here. Let's switch the resolution to, let's do full HD, 1920 by 1080, because that's more than likely what the user is going to be viewing. So anyway, we're going to say it's going to be that, right? So top left. And so now it's like pinned to that. So no matter how it gets scaled or whatever, that will always be in the top left. Then what I want to do is change, let's go ahead and just do lives, colon, space, and let's just type in 0 for now. This is going to get replaced anyway, but I just want to put it in there. Now let's go ahead and change the font size. So let's do, like, let's say 72. Now, what you're going to notice is it's not showing up. And the reasons why it's not showing up is that if you're used to web design at all, it's only going to be visible inside of this box shape. And if you look, see how the height is 30? Well, that's below the 72. So if I make it, let's say 100, now it shows. But notice now it only says live. And that's because the full length of this is more than the 160. So let's do like 300. There we go. You kind of have to guesstimate what the sizes are, but that will help me with that. So that's what this is. So if these get truncated, let's see if it'll dynamically show. There you go. You can see as it gets smaller, it's going to show less of it. Okay. So 300, I think, is a good size here. And then this just needs to be higher than the height of what you see here. Now, the other thing we have here is this font. So by default, it's only going to give me Arial. Because that's the only font that's currently there. But you can find more fonts if you would like. So, for instance, if I go and open up my web browser, and I'm going to go to dafont.com. Is it Dafont? Yeah. If I go to dafont.com, I can find any font that I think looks nice, right? So I'm going to go with Cartoon because I'm doing kind of a, a thing there. They have all these different kinds in here, and you can find what you like. I don't really care what you use for your stuff there. So let's go bubblegum, right? So I'm going to download that, and it's going to download, and it'll save it here, and I'll hit save. Okay. Once it's downloaded, I'm going to go ahead and go to the file, and I've got to unzip it. Come on. Unzip it. So I'm just going to select it there, compress, extract all, extract, and I'm going to minimize this now, okay, and it's going to give me this here, okay, so here's the font right there. So, if you're on a Mac or wherever, you can just double click on it and it will extract, which is nice. Okay, so I want to put this in here, so I'm going to do is go to my assets folder, I'm going to add a new folder, create folder, and we'll just call this fonts. I'm going to double click to open that up, and we'll go back to this, and I'm just going to drop and drag it into here. Let go, and there it is. Now watch. When I go back to my lives text, and I click on, well, for one, I could just drag this up here. That would work. Or if I click on this, you'll see that now I have bubblegum as an option too. So I'll just double click on that, and now it's using the bubblegum font. So you can go find whatever font you want. You just have to make sure that you drag it into your assets folder, and then it will be available. Okay, so we've got that. That's good. Let's see. We could change some other things with this. We can change the color right here. So if you want to do a different color, so let's say we just do kind of a bright orange. And then let's add a component, and let's see, it's shadow. That was not what I wanted. Maybe it's text shadow, text mesh. Maybe it's just shadow. Shadow? Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to add shadow component. And let me do this just so we can see it better. There we go. And what this does is it does what it suggests. It adds a shadow so you can see it's, right? So let's just go ahead and I'll do like, let's say 3 by -3. So it goes down and over a little bit. And I'm going to take the color here. And you'll see the alpha is kind of transparent. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker so it's less transparent so I can see a little bit better. And we'll say that's good. And yeah. All right. So lives. Yay. 0. Okay. And the rest of this is good. Rather than having to create another one from scratch, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. Control D. And then I'm just going to name this one score_text. Okay. I'm going to click on this. And we're going to go to the hold Alt and Shift and click here. So now it's on the right. Let's just go ahead and change the thing it says to score. Let's have it 0. That all looks fine. I'm going to leave the rest of this the same. The only thing I do want to do differently is that this one's left aligned, which works well for being over here. This one I want right aligned. So I'm going to click on there to make sure that it starts from this and works the way left. There's another problem with this too. I'm going to go back on the lives and you see it's hugging. It's right up against the top and the bottom. I'm going to offset it using this here, these position Y and X. So let's try doing 25. Let's do 50. 50 looks good. So it's 50 now from here to here. And then Y, I'm going to do -50. So it's pushing it down from the top. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go to the score text and we're going to do -50 because I'm going to move it to the left. And then again, -50 here. Okay, so just basically it's pivoting from the top here, but then we offset it 50, either minus or negative depending on the XY here. Okay, so now we've got our graphics there. That looks pretty acceptable. Good. Let's see, what else did I want to do? I'm trying to think of the other things we need to do as far as the graphics are concerned. The other thing I'm going to do is just set up the camera here. So by default, it's not, right now when we play the game, right, the camera stays still. It doesn't move with us, all right, if I play this. It's going to do the compression thing here, or the compiling thing. It's going to, you can see like I can move left or right, but it doesn't move with my player, right? And I would like it to move with my player. Come on. So we're going to do, there's a couple things we could do. If I just parented my camera to it, every time I jump, the whole camera is going to move up with it, and it's going to be very awkward and it doesn't work very well. Okay. There's other things we can do too, but there's actually a built-in thing called the Cinemachine. So if you go into game object or component or any of these, you're going to see it's not up here. It's not in by default. What we can do is if you go to Window and go to Package Manager, so certain things are already installed on here. Look at it like plugins, basically. Like components, there's certain components in here that are already installed, like this tile map is one that you should not be on by default. There's other things here that are available to us that might not be by default. But what we can do, some things are turned off that we can do. We just have to turn them on. We have to import them into our game. So we're going to go to Package Manager. And it's going to show the ones that are available. It's going to take a second because it's probably looking locally. It might be looking online as well. And okay, sweet. Oh, and Cinemachine shows up right there. I had a problem when I was looking at this before that Cinemachine did not show up. If that's the case, make sure that you click on this little arrow up here, and yours might say in project. That's what mine said for whatever reason. Make sure you have Unity registry set to it, okay? And that way, all of the ones that are available will be here. So you can see some are already installed, like the ability to use 2D sprites and that tile map editor that I was talking about. What's this 2D animation one? Well, there's other ones in here too. Like, I don't know them all. There's a bunch, obviously. So there's some dealing with Android. The one we're going to use right now is Cinemachine. So you want to select Cinemachine, and you're going to click on Install. It's going to take a second. And then once it's done installing, you will be good to go. It will plop it up here. I'm going to pause it while it's installing. And now it's installed, so that's good. We're going to close this out. Come on. Close out. All right. You hit the little X, and someday it will do it. I think it's still kind of trying to compile here. Come on. When it closes out, I will unpause the video. All right, finally installed for real this time. I can move it again. So I'm just going to close out of this. And now if you go to let's see, where are you? Cinemachine, you'll see there's another option here for Cinemachine. And basically what Cinemachine is, it's not a camera, it controls your camera and allows you to basically lock the camera or direct the camera to do certain things. So in our case, we just want the camera to follow the player, but softly. And you'll kind of see what I mean by that in a second. But you can do other things where you have, like, like if you're playing a game, used to be back in the day when you would play a game that, you would get to a point in the level and then they would play a video, right? And usually it didn't look anything like the game. It would be like a rendered sequence and it was really beautiful and cool. And then they cut back to the game. Well, these days, because the graphics have gotten so good, most of the in-game movies are actually real time. They're using the model that you're playing with, which is really great because it's consistency of look. If you have a custom character, that character is actually in the scene, things like that. But in order to do those sort of things, they at least in Unity, we use this Cinemachine because it allows us to like have the camera go here and then go here, and then go back. You can kind of control it that way. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and create a 2D camera. All right, and that's going to look like that. And you can see it looks like it's no longer working. And the reason why is that this needs to have something that it's going to follow. And you may have guessed it, that's our player. So what we're going to do is I want you to click and drag your player onto this. And now it's going to follow us, okay? And if I hit play, you'll see that now it follows our player. I got to work on that jump. Oh boy. There. Oh, it didn't go too far. Okay. It will follow us, but you'll notice that it's got a soft follow. Okay. Now, I got to adjust that. There's a bunch of settings in here, and I'm not going to go through them all. There's things that you can do that'll make it easier and better. One thing that we're probably going to have to play with later is this lens. And what this will allow us to do is change the size of this. So, like if I do 2, you're going to see I'm much closer. If I do 10, I'm farther back. So if you need to get closer or farther, you adjust that through this lens orthographic size. And then there's a bunch of options here for like the dampening. So like how soft it is, the dead zone width. So you can see there's this border here, which means no matter how fast you go, it'll never let it go past that. There's a bunch of stuff in here. One thing I do want to do, though, is push this a little bit forward. So I want to go this way because we're doing more of a forward game. So we'll go like that, right? Because I want to mostly look forward. I don't care about looking back quite as much, right? I'm always thinking forward. There's a bunch of other options in here, and you can play around with them and see what they are, and you can look them up. If you just look up Cinemachine, Unity, settings or something, I'm sure you'll find stuff in there. Okay. All right. So I think at this point we should probably save it. So Control S. I think at this. Oh, you know what? Actually, this is a little low too. So let's take my screen Y. I want to move it up, right? Because there we go. That's better. Okay. Now I'll save it. So I think at this point we got all of the elements we need in there. We just need to make these actually function, and the score to actually work. And I think everything's in there. And then the last thing we'll do is just kind of adjust the graphics.